The following podcast contains coarse language and adult themes. This week on the show, we wind the clock back a year to the canon event that was our 4-part Legacy of the Spider-Man episode to add an important 5th chapter about the most multiverse movie that ever multied across the Spiderverse. I'm Regs.
I'm Aady.
And this is the Film Addicts podcast. Fucking one-take snake on
Oh,
that shit.
that was awesome, dude.
Hey folks, and welcome back to the Film Addicts podcast. I'm Regs, and I'm here with my man Aady. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing good.
That's good, and I just want to let everybody know I slayed that intro in one take. Ooh.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck everybody. Got my tea. Sorry, that's going to trigger some people. I know that food, eating, and drinking noises sometimes make people go, ugh, but that's okay. We'll just cut that part out. It's not a problem. What's going on, my main man? It's been a minute. With again, another huge gap. I was interstate for a little while doing some nonsense, and now I'm back, and we're talking about, what is it called again? Across the Spiderverse? Into the Spiderverse?
Across the Spiderverse?
Around the Spiderverse? Across? Yeah. And we're going to chat about that. And yeah, it is kind of part 5 of our Legacy of the Spider-Man series that we did do last year after I went to the Spider-Thon. Almost 2 years. So welcome back, Spidey. But yeah, what's going on with you, man?
Well, first of all, I can't unsee the face you made when you said, Like, I can't.
Yeah, I have a very animated... I've got a good face for radio, that's for sure. Good face for podcasting. This guy looks weird. Yeah, sorry about that. That'll haunt your dreams.
You're one. It's a lovely thing.
Oh, well, bless you. What have you been up to, man? You've been busy?
I have. I've been taking some pictures. I've been roaming around with friends, doing jack shit, and I've been listening to our podcast.
You've been listening to our podcast?
Yeah, which is something.
Why?
Which is something I never thought that I'd do, but it's like it's going back, and sometimes it's like therapy.
Well, I like to go back and think about what we're talking about, because my mindset has changed so much in the last 6 months. And 6 months previous to that, I would have been the most staunch defender of some of the stuff that we talk about. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm putting it all aside. And we'll get into that when we talk about Oppenheimer, which is a good example of how I'm feeling about movies at the moment. And all this AI stuff and the strike, and it makes you reassess some shit, you know? Disney VFX artists are unionizing.
Yeah.
People are standing up.
Big moves. Big moves.
Yeah. And that's great. You know, we want people to be represented as best they can and to be paid for their work, and not marginalised. So, but yes, here we are. It's Film Addicts podcast. Welcome back. And what we're going to do now is what we love to do. We're going to talk about some shit that we watched, some stuff that we consumed, and it's in a segment that's called What Are We
Watching?
Yes, what are we watching? I watched some very interesting shit, including Oppie, which we'll get to at the end, because I have a very funny story about the cinema experience, which I was mad about at first, and then afterwards I was like, fucking whatever, it doesn't really affect you that much, grow up. Okay, what have you been watching?
So I did the Barbie and Oppenheimer double feature.
Same day?
Same day in 45 minutes gap.
That's all right. It's enough time to come out, have a wee, get some popcorn, get back in.
Yeah.
I feel like eating popcorn's a little bit...
It
at Oppenheimer, it's weird. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? I should be eating, like, barley sugars or something, or licorice. I don't know what they had in the 1940s. What did they have? Wheat. And chicken pot pie. I really don't know. I wasn't there.
Neither was I.
Certainly not this version of myself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would have lasted about 10 minutes. So how was the experience of the two in the one day?
It was surprisingly well managed for me. I don't know why. Like I managed both well. Like I felt like I got all of it from Oppenheimer, and I got all of it from Barbie. And then I went on the internet and I cursed on the people who said that Barbie was anti-men, because fuck that.
Yeah, you're watching it wrong, pals. It's just, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine about it yesterday, and she was saying she loved it and whatnot, and people come out like they're ready. They're like the fucking Frankenstein village people. He hasn't even really done. I know I killed that girl in the lake, but it was an accident. He's not actually a monster. He's misunderstood. I don't know where Frankenstein's got nothing to do with this at all. Neither of these movies are Frankenstein. But the point is that people are ready. They are sitting behind their keyboards with their tiny little pitchforks and their tiny little minds, and they're ready to fucking go, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter. People are saying the same thing about Oppenheimer, that it's underrepresenting women. Yet, of course it is. Think about the time period. You know, it's and you start. Again, I talk about them all the time, but I listen to them every day, so it makes sense. Steve Sadek from the We Hate Movies podcast said, if you fill that cast, like if you diversify that cast for the sake of, you know, diversifying or getting even, you know, more interesting actors in or whatever, you remove the inherent male whiteness that that was going on at that time period, which is really critical to the story. And I make the argument that, you know, Florence Pugh's character in that is disregarded, you know, by the story because Oppenheimer disregards her, and she's only important after the fact. And then, and this beautiful, you know, beat, this beautiful, you know, arc of truth that runs through that film is Emily Blunt. And then all of a sudden at the end, she is a fucking gangster. Like, yeah, people are going to have their opinions based on a mass idea. And we'll get to that when I talk about something that I watched recently. Like, people take on the broader idea of what something is as opposed to fine-tuning their own ideas.
Absolutely.
So, but regardless of all that horse shart, what do you think of the films? You tell me your opinion.
Well, I did tell you that I didn't love Oppenheimer, and I wouldn't.
Oh, you're racist and you're sexist and you don't like bombs and shit, man.
I don't. That's like, I don't fucking don't, man.
I don't like bombs either. It's ridiculous. Christ, I want to talk about bombs. Fuck. Go again. So you didn't really like it, or you didn't feel it?
I didn't love it. Like I told you that to me, the peak version of a Christopher Nolan movie is when like he gets weird. Like when he's like, let's go into a fucking black hole. Right? Let's do fucking time travel, but make it practical. Like, let's fucking walk and breathe backwards. Like, to me, like his best work is Tenet. And like I knew like the facts surrounding like the actual fucking bomb and everything. I knew that this wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. But the film lover in me was fucking jerking off the whole entire 3 hours because fuck, man. Like here we didn't get the IMAX version. Neither did we get the 70mm version. But like what they're doing with fucking IMAX here is fucking like it is sacrilege to my religion, because they're taking the standard version and they're putting it on the IMAX screen and like blowing it out.
Standard version of what? Oh, the Oppenheimer. Yeah, that's no. You need the actual proper print sized. Otherwise, it's not going to look right.
Yeah. So I went to an art house theater that was showing it, and I watched it projected on film, and it was incredible. Like there was noise in like the blacks of the screen, and oh god, it's just. Yeah.
It really does make a huge difference. And I've always been a fan of celluloid. I go and see movies at the Astor that are projected because they've still got a 35mm and a 70mm projector there. It makes a huge difference. You know, it's a difference between vinyl and digital music as well. And I know digital music is great and it's what we listen to most of the time, but sometimes there's that ambience, that, you know, tonal warmth that you just can't get. It feels like you're there with it, you know, and you're in it. Like I saw it, Oppenheimer twice in 70mm. The Astor was running a series in 70mm, and incredible. Just I took my fiance the first time and she hadn't seen a film on projected on film, I don't think. And she was like, it was remarkable, the difference, like how beautiful it is, how rich the blacks are, how deep the color is and the tone. This film was shot entirely on IMAX. Just an incredible technical achievement given its pedigree, given the fact that he doesn't shoot, like he shoots a lot of fucking handheld. Like the poor Hoyt Van Hoyten or whatever his name is, DP, literally has that fucking thing on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's loud and it's big, and yet he doesn't loop dialogue. There was no visual effects. There was comping and stuff. But I was saying to that to him, she goes, how the fuck did they do the explosion then? I was like, it's forced perspective, the same way they did in Lord of the Rings, which turns out to be the case. Just the craft of it and the care and the detail. Like, even if you don't dig the story, and I really did, I love the way that he tells stories disjointedly. And he wrote the screenplay in the first person as well, like, which is really interesting to make it a really specific idea. But even if you don't, like you said, you didn't really dig on the story, but you can't not stand up and take notice of what he's doing in comparison to everything else that's being done as well. He is the only one making films like this, and he will be, well, I mean, like on this scale, like it's what we talked about, when you see a Christopher Nolan picture, it's a Christopher Nolan picture because he's got those weird inserts, he's got that specific lens choice, that handheld, and then with the broad, sort of helicopter shots and stuff, and that scope. Just stunning, and like contrasted so beautifully by Barbie, which was made very practically, and that beautiful transition shot where they go from Barbie land to the real world, and there's real people and sets and craftsmanship and all that stuff, but very different, and that's great because it gives you the these are the two things that Hollywood can be. This is what we can produce outside of. I know Mattel's probably going to have a Mattelverse now, but outside of that, these two are two original films that came out, based on previous material, but that came out at the same time and have both done really, really well. I think a lot of studios are going to Disney and stuff are going to be going, fuck, what are we doing?
Yep. And we fucking called it. Barbie right now has crossed $1 billion.
I told you. Oppenheimer's got to be not far off. It'll be maybe by the time it ends its run, because I know that they've extended the 70mm screenings to the end of August in the States, which might help out as well. But it'll be close. It'll be pretty close. And it's also going to... Greta Gerwig is now the most successful female director of all time in terms of the money that her picture has made, which is really, really great. It shouldn't be the be-all and end-all of what's going on, but it is good. It means she'll be able to make a lot of choices and go out there and do whatever work she wants to do. Apparently, she's going to be going to Netflix to do the Narnia series. But, just like Christopher Nolan will be looked back upon as one of the greats. In 10, 15, 20 years' time, when he's at the end, not the end of his life, obviously, but, he's getting towards the end of his career. He's probably in his 50s now. Let's say he gets, into his 80s, whatever, and he makes another 10 films or something. By the time you get there, he's going to be thought of in the same sentence as Hitchcock.
100%.
Or Stanley Kubrick. And fight me if you want. Time will tell. We don't know. Maybe his next 10 films will suck and he'll blow it or whatever. But I feel like he's going to be one of the most important, probably if not the most important filmmaker of his generation, definitely.
Yeah, like I would argue that that Christopher Nolan needs to be in that sentence right now. Like he's the only one who's made, like, he makes indie films on the budget of blockbusters.
Absolutely.
And that is something you will never see.
Yeah.
It can only be done by him. And it's Christopher Nolan's a god. No matter your stance on how weird he gets, or how complex his stories are, he always makes an effort to never let the audience fall back on what the fuck is actually happening.
And
it's something that a lot of filmmakers now just don't have it.
He's it was the thing I said to a friend of mine who was like, oh man, it's so wordy and there's so much going on. It's so, you don't feel the time because there's so much happening all the time. And I said, yeah, he's not going to fucking hold your hand. He's like, this is the story. This is the way I'm telling it. Catch up.
Yep.
And if you can't catch up, it's either not for you or you got to watch it again, and I did. I got more out of it the second time because I was able to absorb more of the information and take on more of the story and connect some of the threads. But I like movies that challenge me like that. I don't want, sometimes you go and see the Meg 2 and it's lunacy and you turn yourself off and it's fodder. But then sometimes you want to be challenged. And I love that about him. I went out and bought his entire filmography, apart from The Following, because I couldn't find it outside of inside Australia. I bought all of his movies on either Blu-ray or 4K because I'm taking myself back to school. I want to understand how this guy works. And self-made man, self-taught, started making films when he was young and never went to film school. Like that's. If you're out there and you want to make movies, just pick something up, anything that records, and go out there and do it because there's no one stopping you at this point.
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful. Was there anything else you watched? What do you want to tell me about Barbie?
Oh, Barbie was amazing and everywhere. I cried 3 times. Like it's what I wanted Barbie to be, and it was exactly that. I do wish that there is some version of that film where it's 3.5 hours long because fuck me, there's so much. There's so much in that film. But yeah, it's an amazing story.
Mm. The thing that got me... Sorry, you go ahead.
It's just... There's a line in the trailer which is the theme of the entire film, which is humans have an ending and ideas live forever. And it is how you take that, and that's the movie. Like you don't have to think about what it's saying about patriarchy, what it's saying about how people have seen Barbie and what Barbie's supposed to be, or what the toy is supposed to be. It's just that idea of how you perceive something and how something so random can affect you.
No, I totally understand. For me, it was the scene where she's in the real world and she sits down at the bus stop with the old lady and she's looking around and she's looking at some people having an argument and she's sad and she looks at someone laughing and she laughs and it's Barbie is an empath. Of course she is, because you project your feelings on it. That's the whole part of the story about why she's feeling the way that she is. And that gives such weight and credence to the character. And I mean, Ryan Gosling's amazing. He's just what a remarkable performance, and with so much confidence as well of knowing exactly what he's doing. Truly inspired to take it that far, and that ending where the fucking Billie Eilish song comes in. Like, I like Billie Eilish. I think she's really great, and I don't listen to her music heaps or anything, but I do like that some of her tracks and stuff. She lives a little bit too much in the public eye, which I think can be not great for a young person, but that's neither here nor there. That song is
it is.
And I was holding back tears, let me tell you that much. I don't know I was holding back. Would have been perfectly fine to cry. But it was I enjoyed myself. I had a good time.
Billie Eilish has already won an Oscar for No Time to Die. I really want her to win for this one because fuck me, this song is it is like the Dua Lipa song in the beginning is amazing for sure. Like it's something you can dance for like a whole generation for, and you will get tired. But this is what the film is. Yeah,
just that moment where she's like, "You guys ever think about death?" I was like, oh, "Okay, this is different. This is a different story than I think it's going to be." Was there anything else?
Yes, there was. Yeah.
Oh, he's excited. Ooh, he's very excited. Whatever the film.
Yeah, it's okay. So that was the Barbie and Oppenheimer review.
The Oppenheimer.
Yep, we needed to do that because we're film buffs. We need to.
I didn't want to do episodes on them though because everybody's doing that, and it's just not that that's a problem. Like, do what you want, folks. But it was too easy. It would have been too easy.
So I was Secret Invasion. It was shit. Moving on.
Yeah, it's not doing well. I've checked out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's whatever. I'll catch up if I need to, but I doubt I will.
You don't have to. It's gone. It's
gone. It's finished.
Yeah.
I hear spoilers alert, spoilers alert, spoilers alert. Rhodey's a fucking Skrull?
I mean, he was supposed to be. But then they made it that Rhodey's been a Skrulls in Civil War, which is like fuck you, dude. Like,
takes the teeth out of a lot of those other pictures, I'll tell you that much.
Not you, but fuck you, Marvel.
Yeah. I think they're grasping. I think they're going for shock value maybe now to get people interested again after Quantumania didn't do great and after Wakanda Forever didn't do great, and it's just I feel like they're scrambling for relevance, which can be difficult. Sorry, but what's the thing that you watched that you did want to talk about?
Yes, I watched season 2 of Heartstopper because it dropped, and I watched it 3 times in one day, and it was so good.
You're gonna have to tell me what that is.
Okay. Sorry. It's just So,
people out there know. I'm the one who doesn't know. Like, you need to tell me.
So based on a graphic novel, Heartstopper is a Netflix original show about teenagers in year 10 and 11. For those who don't know, that's grade 9 and 10. Because we have IGCSE, so we have year 10 and 11.
Yeah, we get it, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have seniors or juniors or anything like that.
Yeah, I've never said that before because I didn't do IG. So
that's okay. That's totally fine.
Okay, anyway. And it's about young people discovering themselves, and it is full on LGBTQ agenda, and I fucking love it because it is just so amazing. Like season 1 is beautiful and it has a lot of themes, and season 2 expands on those themes in a way that just it makes you cry. I can't describe it any other way. Like it's weird. I have a connection to each and every character of that show. The characters that are there for a minute of a screen time, I have a connection to them. It is. I really need you to watch it because it's something that you can just feel. Like it's hard to put into words.
What's it on?
It's on Netflix.
Okay. And
as soon as season 1 came out, Netflix greenlit season 2 and 3. So season 2 came out now, and 3 comes out hopefully next year, depending on how the writer strikes.
Depending on the strike and everything. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna check it out. Everyone else, you check it out also. It sounds like, I mean, Addy's a good gauge. So if Addy likes something, if he says Secret Wars is for shit and Heartstopper is the business, get into it. Was it Heartstopper?
Heartstopper.
Sorry, I fucked it up. Gobstopper. That's a very different show. Gobstopper sounds dirty. Okay, so is there anything else?
No. What have you been watching though?
What have I been watching? Let me tell you. I'll do Oppenheimer first because it was last night. No, night before last. Went to the Astor, my place of peace, my church, and yeah, they're doing the 70mm run, and I had to see it again. 70mm. It's too beautiful. And there were 2 dudes. Look, I don't want to like tell people what to do, but there's certain cinema etiquette. All right, it's like talking at the theater. You're not supposed to talk at the theater. Don't talk at the cinema, and fucking put your phone away because it's completely dark. And when you pull your phone out, it's distracting. Like people look at your screen because it's the only source of light in the room, and it breaks up the depth of field of where you're looking.
Yeah.
There were 2 dudes. They were sitting, and again, I'm trying not to judge people, and I don't know them for shit, but I just know that this behavior speaks to being rude at best. They were pulling out their phone every few minutes, and they weren't checking the time or seeing if they got a message from their mum or anything like that. They were on social media. And one of them had a video of himself doing pull-ups shirtless, and he was looking at the comments. And I'm like, you're sitting here watching this movie about this subject, that's for starters. This is about the creation of the atomic bomb in a beautiful 70mm print in a glorious legacy theater that's hundreds of years old or 100 years old or whatever. And you're looking at people commenting on you doing pull-ups. fucking sort your life out, mate. Like, get your shit together. That's not neither the place nor the time to do that. If you want to do that, if you want to be on Instagram and be an influencer and do workout stuff, God bless you. There's some workout people that I follow because they have good advice and, about workouts. And he might be one of those people, but you don't do that at that place, at that time, during that movie. It's fucking ridiculous, and it's kind of, it's insulting to the craftspeople who worked on that film and to the people in that room who took time out of their day to go and see this film because they care about movies. What the fuck, I would happily take the two fucking people when I went to see Dune who were inside of each other. I would happily take that sloshing around sound than fucking than dudes on their phone looking at anything. Like, it doesn't matter that he was looking at a thing. Like, people need to have a healthy ego. It's totally fine. He was obviously in really good shape. He's a good looking dude. But what's going on? The other one was just on Instagram or fucking what's the one where you swipe left and right?
That's Tinder.
But yeah, so that he was on that. I'm like, are you hooking up later, or you go at Oppenheimer? I'll come over and bomb you. I don't know what it's. Yeah, I don't know. Some drop a cum bomb. Don't say cum bomb.
No.
That might not stay in. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was really disrespectful. But just quickly, a couple of things I did watch. Oh dear. Speaking of cum bombs, my God. Don't worry, darling.
Another cum bomb, dude.
Another cum bomb. Holy shit. I don't know what the big deal is. Like, I think, I know that I know this is a conspiracy then. I know that the stuff surrounding that and Olivia Wilde's relationship with the One Direction kid and the Spitgate, all that fucking guff around this movie, like, is really, I think it soured people on the idea of the film, and people just want films to be the way that they want them to be, instead of just accepting the way that they are. It's not a bad movie, it's just not for you. This collective critic thing that we've all got going, particularly on the internet, has got to fucking go. No one has an opinion anymore. It's just this group idea of what something either should be or isn't. And instead of going, I'm going to figure this out for myself and whatever. So I had a really good time with it. I was completely engaged. I thought it was really interesting. The ending suffered a little bit for me, but for whatever reason, I won't mention it because it'll ruin it. But yeah, go and check it out. I mean, Frances Pugh, forget about it. She's one of the most interesting actresses working today. I did see the Meg 2.
You did?
I went to see Meg. It's not the Meg. It's Meg 2, The Trench.
Yeah.
And they spend an awful lot of time in the trench. And I went to see it with my friend Adrian, and she's a big shark movie person. She loves shark movies, as do I. So I went and saw that. She was suitably pleased as well. And I won't say anything about it other than this. There's a full-on Kraken in it. A full-on Kraken.
Fuck off,
and
no way.
There's a Kraken, I'm telling you. And the creme de la creme of the film, Jason Statham roundhouse kicks a dude into a shark. It is just... The fact that Oppenheimer and the Meg 2 came out within a few weeks of each other, and that they're both films in the traditional sense of the word, is absolutely amazing. If there can be all the colours of the rainbow, and all genders and all sexual orientations and all fruits and all vegetables and all the options in the world, there must be these two things also. Like, it couldn't happen at a more perfect time. Ridiculous. Go and check it out. And finally, last night I watched Fatal Attraction from 1987, I think it was, with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. I watched it for the We Hate Movies podcast because that's their episode for this week, and I'd never seen it. I'll give this a look. Why not? It's on Paramount Plus. Give it a peep. And I enjoyed it. It was a good time and everything. But damn, talk about sexy movies. There is full on titty sucking in a lift. And it is, and blowjobs and finger bunging and all. It is erotic as hell in a way that movies aren't now, and it was so surprising in this sort of superhero sanitized Disney-averse kind of film world that we live in now, where everybody's completely sexless and nobody even touches one another on the bum with a finger, let alone fucking, sucking titties in a lift. It was really like took me aback for a second. It was like that. It was like when I saw I was watching Any Given Sunday and I saw that woman's entire vagina in a shot. You're like, wow, we're at softcore porn levels now comparatively. It was just weird, but the movie's quite good. Michael Douglas is, I don't know, he was an absolute poon hound in the 80s and 90s. He was like a sex symbol, and I have no idea why. Ridiculous. Anyway. Oh, having a good time. So that's what we were watching. And after what we were watching, we also like to do one of our other segments, which is the Nerd News. Do you want to do...
Yes.
Do you?
Let's do.
You do?
Let's do Nerd News.
Let's do the Nerd News. So as Addie mentioned, Greta Gerwig's Barbie has officially passed $1 billion at the box office, and apparently there's no sort of sequel in the offing.
Good.
Which would be really interesting. Yeah, I don't know what a sequel to that would be anyway, unless it was a different Barbie perhaps. But so congratulations, Greta. Highest grossing movie ever solely directed by a woman. Now this is an interesting one. It's in two parts, and we'll talk about it briefly. The DC artist Jay Oliver, who was he's a director of some of the animated pictures, but he's also a storyboard artist, and he worked on a lot of stuff with Zack during his tenure at DC. He has come out and said not only would Zack Snyder's planned DCU sort of storyline conclude with a Flashpoint Paradox movie, in the traditional sense, Reverse Flash would have been the ultimate big bad guy in Zack's films. It was when they were doing the Flash film, when it was originally going to be a different director, they were laying the groundwork for Eobard Thawne or Professor Zoom to be the major villain, not Darkseid. He would have been pulling the strings sort of behind the scenes, which would lead to a Justice League Unlimited style Spiderverse, and we would have got probably what would have been a more accurate representation of the Flashpoint Paradox than we got in The Flash. Addie, how do you feel about this, sir?
Oh, just something that we talked about on the last podcast that just happens to be true.
It's funny though, you said it best because you sent me this story, or one of those stories, one of those portions of stories, and the person there was, I mean, they might have been a real Snyderhead, I don't know, but you were saying all these people are now behind this. They're like, oh, it should have happened. And you were like, where the fuck were all these people when everyone was trashing Zack and talking about getting reboots? Like, all of a sudden you want this. You can't have it both ways.
I only remember this because I don't remember like half of the shit I've said on the show. But I only remember this because I was recently listening to the James Gunn podcast that we did, and I say it in that and I repeat it here, that it's all gonna be just one thing. It's, believe it or not, the DCEU had just fucking variety, right? You could have a dark yet hopeless story. You could have a dark story about these goons that come together to save a world from a fucking goddess who wants to rule the earth. You can have a story where hope dies, and yet that the hope dying brings hope of a team in the most hopeless person in that universe. Right? Yeah, dude, no fucking shit, Reverse Flash was gonna be the end of it. Like, there is no other way to end a whole Justice League arc than to have Barry Allen go back and not stop himself from running. It is the most basic yet the most full circle moment that can impact the whole entire Justice League. Because I know this because they did it. The DC AMU ends with that, and it ends with widescreen and each and every hero's shadow just fading away. And then you see the three people who fucking told Barry Allen to run back and not stop himself. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. Their shadows linger on for 5 seconds.
I get, and I can understand your fervor as well. Your very strong response to this, because it's it's silly. Also, it would have been a great way to reset. If they wanted to do that. Like you sent me that video of like James Gunn talking about the Flash, and he's like, it's going to reset the whole DC universe. And there's that guy going, nope. No, it didn't. No, it didn't at all. There's so much misinformation out there. It's like global warming at this point. Certainly not as threatening, but yeah, there's a lot of people talking a lot of shit, but it would have been interesting. It would have been really interesting to see where we would have ended up with that. Now, second to last story, because the last story leads us into our main topic, which is Across the Spider-Versing. Yes, this is a in memoriam for William Friedkin, Billy to his friends. William Friedkin passed away on the 7th of August, 2023. Fantastic director. Started as a documentary filmmaker, and then in the early 70s, late 60s, moved on to directing feature films, most notably The Boys in the Band and The French Connection. French Connection is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so guerrilla, it's so grungy and documentary style and handheld. It was just unlike anything that had been seen at the time. I love that style of filmmaking. A lot of that DNA seeps into the work that I do. He also directed The Exorcist, which is still thought of as one of the deadliest movies of all time. He directed a really great film in 1977 called The Sorcerer, which is about a bunch of mercenary type guys who are traversing a very hostile landscape in a truck filled with nitroglycerin, and they have to be really careful that this thing doesn't blow up. And it is pulse poundingly filled with action, I guess. Well, not even action, it's more suspense and dread and drama. Definitely worth checking out. He also directed Cruising with Al Pacino, To Live and Die in LA, which is a really great film. Had some, did some alright stuff in sort of the 90s and 80s. He directed a film called Jade, 12 Angry Men, Rules of Engagement, Hunted, which is a good film I rewatched recently with Tommy Lee Jones. But just a fantastic filmography. He was notoriously a bit of a dick. There's a lot of interview footage of him coming down pretty hard on people. He was Gene Hackman didn't like him at all when they were making The French Connection. He was real sort of stern and particular, and whatever. But he made wonderful films. Not making wonderful films isn't an excuse for being an asshole, but he did make some beautiful movies. So I just wanted to shout him out real quickly. And finally,
I have one more.
What's your one?
So I have this, and I sent you that, and I'll bring it up because I really do want to rant about this.
Okay.
So Wonder Woman 3 is in development and is also a reboot with a different version of Diana, played by Gal Gadot.
Yep. Hey, do you want to let's write a book called How to Confuse the Shit Out of People 101. People aren't going to understand that. It was like when they recast Batman. It was,
which one?
Like, is this?
How many times?
I just remember having a conversation with someone when Ben Affleck got cast, and they were like, "What happened to Kristen Bale?" I'm like, "It's a different movie." So yeah, but like, he's just taking over the role? I'm like, well, technically he's taking over the role of Batman, but it's a different universe, and I couldn't explain it to them. We're different times now, but I feel like it's going to confuse some people. Yeah.
It is weird, and it's kind of frustrating because The Flash was supposed to be the last of whatever the fuck the Snyderverse was. Yeah? I call it whatever the fuck because we never really got to know what the fuck it was supposed to be. For the last 9 months now, you've been marketing this as a reboot. Yeah? There's a new Justice League that's supposed to happen. There's a new Superman that's now there. That's not on screen, but is going to be on screen in the coming years. If this can be another version of Wonder Woman, yet played by the same actress, what is stopping you from doing the same with Ben Affleck? What is stopping you doing the same with Henry Cavill? If you say that these are connected stories and we are only going in one direction, then why is there the Batman 2 and 3? Why is there a Joker? Yeah? And if you're saying, oh, well, these are Elseworld stories, then why can't there always be Elseworld stories? What happened to the mentality of people saying Elseworlds is the only way that DC films can be great again? Elseworlds has always been like the biggest pull for people, because if you don't like the main thing, you still got stories that you can pull from that are amazing. It's very frustrating because the whole Henry Cavill thing happened 3 weeks. Right? 3 weeks of glory. If you say that this is a total reboot, then why are you picking and choosing the things that you want to reboot? There was no contract of Gal Gadot having a third film. But there was a contract of Henry Cavill continuing to be Superman for 2 new movies. There was a contract of Ben Affleck making 2 Batman films and a series. Right? If you can trash that out, why do you keep this?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I'm sure that someone will ask that, and I'm sure that James Gunn will answer them because he fucking answers everybody asking him questions about everything. And
like the answer that won't work is that, oh, it's a different take. If it's a different take, why not a different Wonder Woman? Why not have Gal Gadot as the executive producer and being in a role of handing over the role instead of carrying it into a new version where in like 2 years you're gonna reboot her again?
Yeah. And the Batman thing works even better because Ben Affleck's kind of the perfect age to have Damian come in, because they're doing Brave and the Bold and Damian's going to be introduced. He'd be the perfect age to have a teenaged son. And he would feel more like a dad, as opposed to if they go younger. Ben Affleck's probably 50 something, I'd say, or probably on 50. That's the perfect time to be having those kind of conversations. So I completely agree.
Like this is a bit off point, but I dreamt of a scene yesterday where it is Ben Affleck's Batman looking from in the Snyderverse, Metropolis and Gotham are sister cities. So this
New York and New Jersey,
yeah, they share somewhat of a skyline together, and it was Batman in full costume with Robin that presumably was Damian Wayne, and he was looking up at the sky, and Damian Wayne just asked, "What are you looking at?" And Batman just smiles, and you see,
awesome.
you see the sun. It's like, of course, he's watching his friend.
Yeah, watching his pal. I love that. Well, look, I guess we'll see what we shall see. I've handed in my chips as far as this stuff goes. I'm like, no, thanks. The value of this is starting to go down. I'm not interested anymore. Not that I need it to have value, like in terms of conversationally or anything, and to be able to keep talking about it. That's not what I'm interested in. It just doesn't hold as much value to me. And speaking of things not holding value, what the fuck? This leads into our conversation about Across the Spiderverse. Sony has delayed Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse indefinitely due to the writers' strike, as the voice cast can't finish their recordings in time to meet the March 29th, 2024 deadline. A new date hasn't been announced as yet. So in light of that news, Across the Spider-Verse, we're back with Miles and Gwen, and this time we're traversing the multiverse, which is very, very popular, even in a bigger way, very popular at the moment. But I feel like this broke ground on the idea of the multiverse stuff, even before No Way Home. And introduces a new idea about these canon events, these events that have to take place within Spider-Man's life in order for timelines to remain smooth. And you have Miguel, who is Spider-Man 2099, who's I think one of the best designed characters of all time, played wonderfully by Oscar Isaac, coming in and trying to correct all the mistakes that have been made across the multiverse because of these canon events. Being a threat. Yeah, exactly. I loved it. What do you think?
I watched the first one when I was 16.
Has it been that long? Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, it was 2018.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because they killed Spider-Man twice. Remember? Because it was Infinity War when when Spider-Man gets snapped, and then it was Christmas of the same year when they killed Peter Parker in Into the Spider-Verse.
Jesus, talk about a pandemic. All these spider people getting fucked up. Right, okay. So you saw it when you were 16, and it had an effect.
It did, because it was the same year as the Stars one came out, and I decided that I wanted to do something in film, and then I saw Into the Spider-Verse, and I was like, I just fucking give up. Like,
so when Spielberg saw Lawrence of Arabia and was like, "Fuck, how am I possibly going to compete?" But, yeah, I get that feeling.
Yeah, I was the same age as Miles was in that, and it had an impact. Like, it really fucking did. Like, that's my favorite Spider-Man film ever made. I know No Way Home exists, but No Way Home only exists because of that film.
Yeah, No Way Home also like plays. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a Spider-Man film in the traditional sense. It feels like a series film. Like, across. Into the Spider-Verse could have just been a solo picture. It didn't need a sequel at all. Well, it did. Not that it didn't need one, but if they didn't make a sequel, it still would have been probably the best because it came from a specific place. We've said it many times. Miles is the Spider-Man for now. Like, his story is more important than another white, middle-aged Spider-Man. It's why they're all the ones in the film who are wrong, and how Miles discovers he is almost unstoppable. Like, his power is he's not afraid because he is so powerful. He knows how to use that power for good now. Like, what a wonderful message to send to a young person of color. And I don't think anyone's ever accused of this podcast of being woke, because that's not what our audience is like. But if you feel like that's woke, whatever, I don't really give a shit. I think it's a really important eye on this character and what this character can be, the character of Spider-Man. And just, you were saying before, you were the same age as Miles then. They did a really good job in the animation of aging him up a little bit.
Yeah. But
subtly. Like, it's not super obvious or anything. Gwen's the same. They look like young adults now. They don't look like kids anymore.
Yeah, I was sitting with, I'm not gonna name names because they don't watch this, but just in case, I was sitting with my friends who were two very horny fuckers.
Okay. Did you have a Dune type situation, or were they checking their phones to make sure that their workout videos were getting lots of likes?
No, it's just every time Gwen came on screen, things happen. especially to people who are like 16, 17.
Sure. That's whatever you're into. It's very fun. She's very cute for ones and zeros.
Yep. And they asked me, and I was like, I can't answer like any of those questions even if I wanted to, because now I'm fucking 20 and she's still 17.
Yeah.
Like, the subtle age up is something I really appreciate, because Gwen is a little bit more taller, and Miles is a bit. His neck is a bit longer as well.
Yeah. And he's sort of like, muscly, like tone-wise. He's been Spider-Man for a good period now. A lot of flipping around, whipping around, and doing all sorts of shit. Like, it just, little things like that are what make the show. And introducing the Spot and having him sort of dictate the shift in animation style. Once you kind of get into that, and all the Spider people are animated differently. So much so that, yes, it is the chef's kiss. So much so that you have animated versions of Spider-Man that have already existed, even talking to Miles in this film. That great chase scene at the end where it's all of them up the vertical train line. Forget about it. Just what an incredible sequence. The change in it, I think for me, where I was like, there's always a moment. I said it before about a Barbie, where she's an empath, and I got it, and that's the click, that's the term where I'm like, okay, I'm in. Whatever this is, whatever the rest of this is, you've got me. For me, it was when you saw Gwen's universe, outside of the drums at the start, when you see her with her dad, and the color on the walls moving. And the tonal shift, like when she runs over and gives her dad a hug and it plumes with warm color. Like, I was just like, someone really gives a shit about this. Someone really cares about how they're telling this story visually.
Yeah, it was 20 minutes before we actually saw Miles, and
Yeah.
it is more of her story than it is of Miles.
Yeah, she's the one who... I mean, they've got a really nice parallel, after the scene where they're sitting upside down on the gargoyle, which is so cool. Like, even animating them so that the stress of gravity is different on them is beautiful. That is where they sort of... their paths diverge and they start going in opposite directions, but, opposite directions parallel to each other in terms of their growth. Gwen has to end up reconciling with what's actually happening to her and within the spider community, and Miles discovers the truest form of his power, so much so that he can come out to his mum at the end, even though it's... spoilers abound for this episode too, by the way, even though it ends
also
up
it's on digital now, so like it's legit been 2 months.
Yeah, that's true. It's good. It's kind of why we kind of like don't do things straight away so that we can talk about them properly. But yeah, when it comes out to his mum and it's not his version of... he's gone to the wrong universe.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's...
comes out as Spider-Man to his mum.
Yes, comes out as Spider-Man. Sorry, that would be more specific. Comes out as Spider-Man to his mum, or reveals himself as Spider-Man, and she's like, "Who the hell are you talking about?" And then it's in that universe, he's the Prowler, which is pretty cool. But I wanted to ask you, and forgive me if this is really insensitive or naive, seeing the Indian version of Spider-Man, like honestly, was that like something you ever thought that you would see?
No.
Do you like that section of the film?
It's a solid 5 minutes.
There was a little bit too little of him, but he does set up a pretty important canon event, which gets shifted. Yeah. But I was wondering, because everybody sees him. The beauty of Spider-Man is that he wears a mask. You can project whoever you are onto him. Todd McFarlane said that best. Who do you think I am under this mask? Or what color do you think I am under this mask? But that's very specifically a Spider-Man who comes from, that culture, and the argument about the chai tea.
Yeah.
Being heard on that level is what or being seen on that level by the people who make these movies, it must have made a difference.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I've been a fan of Spider-Man for so long, right? Like, for me, that was just another level of this is what Spider-Man can be. Like, it's to me now, Spider-Man is mostly Miles, because that's the story that I gravitate to more. Yeah, but like kids are like 6-7 years old. That's the thing that they have to see. Like, this is what Spider-Man can be, right? This is the power that this story, this character has, right? Like, when you see John Henry Irons paint the fucking S on his suit, that's what Superman is. It's not some alien flying. It's someone that's... I mean, it's been the alien flying for so long. But the main theme of Superman is hope. I did not expect that, and I did not expect them to do it as well as they did. But I mean, that section is also heavily overshadowed by my favorite character in the whole film.
Spider-Punk.
Yeah,
yeah. He's pretty cool. I like when he takes his mask off. How are you cooler with your mask off? And you said it to me. They like he's animated at a different frame rate, which is really cool. So he kind of looks like a poster, which is awesome. That whole sequence is fantastic. I think that's because it looks so different. Like they took the time to say what is the aesthetic of this if it was an entire book. From its comic roots. Like, if you made a Gwen Stacy book, it would look like that. It does have a softer, more feminine feel to it. Not to put a gender on it, but that's how it felt to me. The representation of emotion through color and through texture and through tone is so specific, and Spider-Punk's a great example of that. Like, he's supposed to be a fucking a half torn off poster that's on a pole in the middle of West London in 1986, that someone's put up their bands playing and someone's torn the bottom of it or whatever. Like, he's supposed to look like that. Just to take the time. Or, fuck, the vulture at the beginning, who's like a Leonardo da Vinci painting. Just incredible insight into how to make something visually interesting. And you're right. This Miles is everywhere I go. Cinema or anywhere where there's children. After this movie came out, and they're how sometimes you just walk around and you see kids and they're dressed up.
Okay.
They could be a princess or a dinosaur or whatever. The amount of Mileses, and the kids were of varying ethnicities as well. I have friends who have kids as well, and they're posting pictures of these kids' birthday parties, and there's Miles standing right there, and Gwen. That's the future. Peter Parker, the regular one, I think his time's over. So much so that I don't reckon they should make another Tom Holland picture. I reckon we're good. We're good there. You want to do live action? Or for starters, bring out the third one of these. And if you want to do live action, please. Just hire the fucking kid who does his voice.
Oh my God, yes.
Right? You could age him down. Like, I know he's not, I think he's older than Miles. He'd probably be in his 20s or something. But his voice, it is one of the most incredible voice performances I've ever heard. He's up there with Kevin Conroy, honestly, of embodying a character. Just remarkable emotion through a vocal capture. Even more so than Haley Steinfeld in a lot of ways.
I do think Haley Steinfeld shined a lot more in this one.
Especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
When it starts on her, yeah.
But it's also because we spend more time with her here. We actually get to know why she's doing what she's doing, and then we get to see where she will end up. And I just the
fact that it ends with her, she's like, I gotta go and save this guy, and it's up to me, kind of thing. And the reality of the relationships for me ring true in a way that they don't in the live action films, because in the live action films you're always trying to set up the next thing and the next beat and all this kind of shit. With this, to take the time to have an intimate scene on a rooftop where Miles is becoming very blasé about what he has to do as Miles and very, very dedicated to what he has to do as Spider-Man, so much so that he's alienating his parents. And his dad has this really important thing happen to him where he's being promoted, and they're having a party for him, and he turns up late with the trashed cake, and they have a fight. Everybody's had an argument with their parents like that. The emotional reality of this film far exceeds anything that it should be for what it's doing. This could aim lowest common denominator and just be whatever the fuck ever, and just be, it's for kids and it'll sell toys. The people telling this story care about Miles and care about Gwen and care about his parents and care about their origins. His ethnicity being of both African American descent and also Puerto Rican descent. Is that correct? And like, that is really important to both of them. Like, he's failing Spanish, and she's like, "Excuse me, like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're failing Spanish." And then you get something like in terms of your villains. The Spot, obviously, he's kind of doing things in the background and then is set up to be the bigger villain, in the third picture. Played wonderful by Jason Schwartzman, just hysterically funny, but then also incredibly tragic and incredibly rageful. The turn that he makes when he discovers his power is really chilling. Oscar Isaac, another great vocal performance. You don't understand him at all. He's just like, I'm trying to stop these things from happening because, and then all of a sudden you realize he fucked up. And he had this life that he stole from someone else and suffered the consequences of that so much so that he lost the people that he loved the most. What great motivation that you don't find in other places, in these kind of stories. That's the big thing that we're always struggling with, is the villain. And these films have killed it. Like, remember Kingpin in the last one? Kingpin is like Kim Possible, except she's a gangster instead of an adventurer. Kingpin, with his huge head and massive shoulders, his understanding of your understanding of his motivations is so clear at the onset. He's literally cracking the universe open to get his family back.
Yep.
It's beautiful. What amazing storytelling.
I want to go back a bit because you said Kim Possible, and then I started imagining Kingpin, but he's a redhead.
He's got redhead and freckles and a fanny pack. Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, we should do that. Kim Possible, everyone, or Kim Pin.
That's her. I'm pretty sure you make the same joke in the Legacy of Spider-Man episode that we did with Miles.
Do I? Yeah. Well, we repeat. I repeat jokes all the time at the great annoyance of my friends and family, because not only am I hysterical, I have a shitty memory. So I try to be hysterical more than once. I get told you've done that joke before a lot, and I'm like, whatever. If something works, if it ain't broke.
Oh
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta. It's and I think when people don't find it funny, I'm like, whatever. It's still funny. It's just not for you. It's totally fine. Tell me.
It's exactly what I say about Wes Anderson films. It's just
that's right. Yeah, and so much so that people are trying to recreate them.
Oh my god,
that's
fucking
idiots.
Fuck.
Did you see Craven got pushed back as well? Sorry, I was just remembering that.
I did.
That shitty
yeah.
Spider-Man trailer thing. Craven got pushed back almost a year.
I
That's what happened to Morbius. Hey, Sony. Sony, that's what happened to Morbius. And do you remember what a fucking clusterfuck that ended up being? It was a joke on a universal level. Creatures who live in the sea understood that Morbius was shit. And then that it was a huge joke. Craven's going to be the next Morbius. And I can't wait.
I can't with Sony making Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man. I can't.
It couldn't be more of a money thing.
But of course, because if they don't make the movies, they run out of the fucking license.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you get into that kind of a situation. But anyway, let's get back to. There's no Kraven the Hunter in Across the Spider-Verse. Unfortunately, there'll be next time. It's pretty funny seeing Donald Glover in there.
Oh yeah. That caught me by surprise. That caught me by surprise more than when Andrew Garfield showed up.
Yeah, he should have been a different Miles though, because originally
True.
like they were talking about him being cast as Spider-Man.
Yeah, but he's the Prowler in the
MCU. Yeah, no, I
MCU,
get that.
so
Yeah.
I guess that's the line where they connect or whatever the fuck.
I did like they threw a bit of shade to it, and it was like, don't even let me get started about what that, that idiot and the sorcerer did on, Earth 99999 or whatever it is. Yeah, I just tell me what you think, like in terms of the set pieces. Let's talk about some of the kind of the big moments. Like for me, it's that vertical train sequence that I know that's kind of the denouement, like that's kind of the end of the picture, really, like the last action set piece. That whole chase with him and Peter Parker saying, "I had a kid because of you."
Oh my god!
Like that little kid as well. Like you put a toddler or a rambunctious child into a film, I normally check out. But she was adorable. The little mask.
She puts on the mask at the end of it, and oh my god, dude. Yep.
And that's a great representation of that character, and should be that way. I think that's a really good way to have Peter Parker. I don't think you need the youthful version of him anymore. But I think, set pieces. Yeah. Help me out here. What do you think?
Well, my favorite one was it's either the Gwen versus Vulture or the first time we see Miles versus Spot.
Yeah, in the
my god,
in the bodega, yeah, and then it like goes all over the place,
and then he goes into himself, and then he goes into different universes. That's what Multiverse of Madness should have been.
You're absolutely right. He ends up in Lego World. He ends up getting hit in the face by the person in the old timey world. It's an interesting way to visually do that, Multiverse was just kind of, you saw a couple of different universes that had stuff that looked like it belonged in the same universe, though. It's different art style, different coloring, different animators probably. The Lego world was Legos. It was that's what a multiverse should be like.
Yeah.
For every alternative.
And like until like we see him at the end, yeah, at the spot.
Mm.
Up until that point where he goes to Alchemax and like I hope he comes and he's like, use your palms, and which comes back around so perfectly. We'll talk about that. But like he up until that point where he snaps the connection with like the web between him and like the other 4 spider people, and says, I will show you what I can be. And it's just he's talking to Spider-Man. He's looked up to this guy, and he feels like Spider-Man owes him something because he's Spider-Man because of like an experiment that he did.
Yeah.
And it's that whole like, I wanted to be something and now I'm this. It's And then like after the film came out, there were a few articles praising Avi Arad, which I always hate. They were praising Avi Arad for like his idea for the Spot being a good villain. This is what I fucking hate about internet, right? They will have those 500 articles, but not one of them will say that he did the same thing with Spider-Man 3 for toys. He wanted to sell the Spot toys. It's the writers who made that character work so well. It's not him. He wanted to sabotage this film with having this like joke of a character be the villain. It's the writers that made it work. That's why they need to get fucking paid.
Yes, yeah. We stand with the writers, particularly on this picture, because it was it is a feat juggling all of this stuff and having it all work, and that's the thing as well. It all works. There's a feeling of like I said before, did we need this? The first one was kind of complete on its own. But to further Miles' story, to have him graduate from, discovering himself as Spider-Man to becoming Spider-Man to embracing that as in its fullest form and embracing his power and, gaining that confidence that Spider-Man doesn't have. Spider-Man is the epitome of, like, the reason he cracks jokes and shit all the time is because he's really fucking insecure. Whereas Miles is, I am 100% a badass and I cannot be fucked with, is a really great thing to say to young people. Step into your power.
Fuck yeah.
That's a message that should be heard by as many people as possible. To do that, to have that work while doing all the storylines and having the spectacle and having all the different things. Like, it's just no wonder it took him so fucking long, because this is precision work. You don't fuck around. It's to get things out, at a clip the way that people expect it now is such a huge mistake, because you end up getting a watered down, if not degraded version of what you probably should have got. Like, if they need to put this off because of if it doesn't come out till 2028, whatever, as long as it has the same level of care that this one did.
Yeah. And the thing is, because it was a 6-year gap from the first one to the second one, the kids who were 6 who watched that were now 12. The kids who were 10 then were now 16.
Yeah.
They will relate so much more to this than Peter Parker. Because it's their Spider-Man. And also, I changed my answer. It's like my favorite set piece is either their Gwen versus Vulture or the whole like, what is it called? Like the Web of Destinies, is that what it's called? Where where he shows like every single canon event that's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And
then they're forcing him to go back, and we see it's everything up until the chase.
Yeah. And to as a person who's been read Spider-Man comics for a long time and seen so many variations and fucking the Ben Reilly stuff, like Scarlet Spider. I don't know if you're familiar with that character.
I am a little
I'm
bit.
saying you, Addie, a little bit. Yeah. Well, he was basically the clone of Peter Parker who took over, during the Clone Saga, and it actually ended up. They were saying that he's the real one and Peter was the clone. So Ben Reilly became Scarlet Spider and then became Spider-Man. But in the end, they kind of retconned that because no one liked that idea. But Ben Reilly as a Scarlet Spider was like that, you know, and it was drawn like that, and that got me. And to see all the different versions, you know, the one in the with the paper bag on his head with the Fantastic Four uniform on there and stuff. It was just to see all those versions that I've seen over the last, 35 years of being a comic book reader. It was just, it got me. And to have, I don't mind that they made Miguel a bad guy. That's fine, and the vampiric nature of his power has been. They didn't shy away from it. I thought they would, because he's genetically enhanced. It's not about getting bitten by a spider. Like his DNA has been changed on a molecular level, and he does. He climbs on the wall because he's got fucking talons, not because he's got little sticky things. To have him be ferocious and really interestingly animated as well in his movement it's almost like a wild cat, like a panther or something, in its sharpness of movement and its stillness, and then the propulsive nature of its power. Super, super cool. Yeah, I really loved it. And I honestly can't... I think it was probably a little long in overall. Like, there's stuff that you could have trim back, because it was close to 2.5 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2 hours 20, which makes it like the longest animated film ever made.
Wow.
Which I feel like we should
pare a bit of that back.
Yeah, I feel like there should be like a 4-hour animated film. Like, it has to be.
There must be somewhere. Yeah, I'm not sure. You'll hit us up in the comments if you know any particularly long animated films. But yeah, I mean, I can't really fault it. Was there anything that you would like to see improved on or adjusted for the sequel, the third quel?
No, I just want to be on this ride of this story, man. Like, it's interesting, the whole Miguel O'Hara thing, because he's the creator of the Spider Society. Yet, his inner circle, including him, are 3 of the only people in the Spider Society who have never been bitten by a spider. Like, his whole thing is to have that thing happen. Is to have the journey of getting bit by a spider happen, and then be on track with the journey that happens from there. Every power that he has is an injection. Jessica Drew was experimented on, wasn't bit by a spider. Ben Reilly is a clone. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, I also Jessica Drew, fucking, motorcycle riding, pregnant,
fucking badass,
woman of color who's just a great, and even she kind of knows in the end that they're doing the wrong thing. What a great, again, it's not about inclusivity even really, or thinking about this in terms of casting it, using characters to represent minorities, because that's the thing that you have to do now. Like, that's not even really what it's doing. They're the most compelling characters to tell this story with. They just happen to also be people of color.
Exactly.
There's no this hijacked woke movement idea is getting really thin, and you can't, when you see something like this where it has nothing to do with their race. Like, they talk about Miles, the fact that his dad is African American and his mother's Puerto Rican, that there is mention to that, but it's never about that. And even at the end, when he's revealed as in the other universe as the Prowler, as a criminal, he's not a criminal because he's an African American, in the United States. He's a criminal because that's what happened to his world. He could have been of any color or any race or any, sexual creed or whatever. These are the stories that we're telling with the most captivating characters, regardless of who they happen to be.
Yeah. Also, I think it's been confirmed that the Miles Morales version of Earth 42 is not a villain. Like, he's like in the prologue, you see the spider going up to him, which is the spider that bites Miles Morales in the first one.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is that it shouldn't have bit him. It should have bit Miles.
Yeah, it should have been our Miles. It should have been Earth 42.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's why the spider glitches. He's a hero in that universe. It's just his methods are different than Spider-Man, because Spider-Man didn't exist there.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see what form that takes on. I do love the fact that his uncle's still alive. He's played by Mahershala Ali, yeah?
Yeah.
And also they don't shy away from violence either. Like this, he gets fucking he hits him really hard when he's hanging off the punching bag.
Yeah.
They're no fucking around. Like this is for real. It's it's like in No Way Home where Peter and the Green Goblin have a drag out fight and a bleeding and bashed up at the end of it. That's interesting to me. Like violence with a purpose, violence with some consequences, some stakes. It's always more interesting. And I will say, you mentioned before, like you read this stuff online praising Avi Arad or whatever. Here's a tip for your asses, everybody. Here's a tip from Regs. Stop reading stuff online. Which is a silly thing to say, considering that I have an online presence for this podcast and for my company, all that stuff. But when it comes to reviews and shit like that, as soon as you start reading and it starts being negative, just turn it off. Just look away. Go and find go on Letterboxd and find 5-star reviews for a movie that you loved, and read those and join in the joy of other people enjoying this. Don't read negative reviews. It is a fucking monumental waste of time. Even if you didn't like the film, go and read positive reviews and get a different opinion. And then if you come away with a better idea of something, that's great. Or if you come away hating it more, that's fine too, and make up your mind and stuff. But I feel like a perspective is always needed.
Like, I read reviews, dude. My whole thing is that if I don't like a film, I just don't write about it. Because liking things is better than not liking things.
Yeah. And I've got to tell you, this might come as news to everybody, but 99.9999 at infinitum% of the people on Instagram who review movies aren't professional film critics. And do not have the pedigree. And a lot of them have really bad grammar and really bad spelling and all sorts of stuff. It's just, find the ones that you like and follow them with interest and take what they have to say with a grain of salt and figure shit out on your own, because there's a lot of fucking noise out there and it hurts box office if you make decisions based on that stuff. And we don't want to hurt box office because we need it.
We do.
We need the church. And we also need Beyond the Spider-Verse. What are your predictions, before we come to a close, what are your predictions for the third picture? Anal beads. What the fuck, Regs? I don't know how they would work that into the story, but it'd be interesting. I surprised myself. Did you hear me surprise myself there?
I did.
I just said anal beads and was like, hang on a minute. I talked to myself in the first person. Whatever. Season 2. You took too long. Don't leave such a huge gap. My mind goes places.
It was 2 seconds. It was legit 2 seconds.
Think about how my brain works, all right? Think about how the synapses are firing. You need to keep up. Sorry. So yeah, what are your predictions? Are we like other characters, storyline, action pieces? You're still laughing at the beads. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Just if Nicolas Cage returns as noir Spider-Man, and while he's talking to someone, he just goes and like pulls out. Then he's like, there should have been 4 in there, as opposed to okay. Oh dear. Oh no. There's always a point where it goes off the rails, and here it is, everybody.
Oh god.
Welcome to the nonsense.
Yep.
Do you have a legitimate answer to that question, please?
What the fuck was the question?
I said, what are your predictions for the third film? Like new characters introduced.
Yeah, you remember
the development of storylines or whatever.
You remember the T-Rex?
Yes.
Yeah. I would really love to see S-Speeds come out of that.
They'd be like bowling balls on a chain. That's ridiculous. And that doesn't work. No, it doesn't work with the T-Rex because their arms are too small. They couldn't put it up or pull it out. So they would have to get someone else to do that.
Yeah, maybe it's like a R-rated porno with Spider-Ham and the T-Rex.
Oh no. Poor Spider-Ham. Just shoving bowling balls up a T-Rex's ass. There's a sentence you don't hear often. Shit.
Oh,
I don't have a legitimate answer to this question because I really don't know what it's going to be. You know, like it just. I don't know how they tie that story up. I'm just excited to see whatever it'll be.
I do have an answer though. Fuck.
Good. Do your real one, and then we'll do some questions.
We don't have questions for this one.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. We won't do questions.
Yeah. Fuck. Can we please have Silk? Like, can we please? Like, please. Please.
Weren't they bringing out a Silk movie or TV? We talked about it in Nerd News some weeks back. And aren't they making a Madam Web movie?
They are. Which is going to be another Spider-Man film without Spider-Man in it.
Spider-Man in it, yeah. I mean, how long do they think they can keep doing this, you know? And are they connected? I mean...
Oh, I think...
Venom is Venom's connected to Morbius, because they mention it.
Yeah. Craven's connected to Morbius, for sure.
Craven's connected to Morbius in the fact that it's been delayed. I just feel like I understand that the reason that it's probably been delayed is because of the writer's strike. I know it's a finished picture, but if they're still working on it, they might not be able to pay people correctly. I think it's probably more got to do with SAG than anything.
Yeah.
I know a lot of movies are pushing their release dates because if they release them at this period, then the actors can't do press. And that kind of hurts. They can't do the circuit of doing the press on the movie to kind of get interest up. So maybe that's it. And I know that's not why they postponed Morbius. They postponed Morbius mostly because of the pandemic. So I was just having fun. I was just being silly. But we'll see whatever that'll be. But yeah, Silk. They were talking about doing something with her.
Yeah. I think the best route that they could go is you introduce like Spider-Woman and everything in the Madam Web film, and you have Cindy Moon there, and then she goes off for her own adventure in her series. Because there's a version of that story that I would do, but I'm not doing it. So this is the one that makes the most sense.
Okay. Well, Sony, are you listening? And Pascal Pictures. All right, listen to Addie. He knows what's up.
Yeah. Can we like? They have like in the actual soundtrack they have a song called Silk and something, and I was like, in a film that's got songs that mean so much to the plot, there had to have been Silk somewhere, right?
Maybe that's a tease. Like, don't worry, Silk's coming. Number 3, folks.
If she does come, I don't trust anyone else more than the writers of these films to do it better. Do it like the best, because I've talked about it a lot. Like Silk is one of the best Spider Society characters ever made. She is like, the thing is, people don't regard her as one of like the best, because she is just incredibly better and stronger than Peter Parker can ever be.
I think most of the ones that they've developed after Peter are like, how can we advance this?
And it's weird because like in their first issue, Peter Parker and Cindy Moon fuck because they were bitten by the same spider. There's a connection there. But it would be really cool if Cindy Moon was from the same universe as Miles, because if they could tie it with Cindy Moon being the first person the spider bit, and then Miles finds it. So they're connected, but not in like the weird sexual way, because Cindy Moon is, oh God, so elder, like so like she's elder than Miles. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Okay. But I mean, you could shift the age a little bit and have it be a bit of a love triangle between her and Gwen, especially after Gwen betrayed Miles. Like, I know she's going to save him and everything, but that's a long road to hoe.
Yeah. What'd you say?
It's a long road to hoe. I'm not saying that she's a hoe. A road that you would build with a hoe, like back in the day.
Oh, okay.
They would have. It's just a turn of phrase, which I understand, which you wouldn't understand because I was born in 1914. So
you were there, Open Harbor. Then You were in
I
the
was
40s.
I was one of them. I was working for Oppie. I was one of the communists. Fucking don't say that out loud, Regs. You get in trouble for that. I'm not a communist, everybody. Don't worry. That was a joke.
Yep. It was
Comedy satire.
Yep. Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, Sony, just fuck everything and bring Silk into it and shut up. I'm excited for whatever it is. I really hope they do. You know, the writers get what they deserve, and that sounded like a threat. I hope they get what they deserve. A very Australian threat. I hope the writers get treated properly. I hope the actors get treated properly. You know, people should be paid for their art, in whatever form that takes. You know, and this is no exception. So bring on Beyond the Spider-Verse whenever it is, and I guarantee you'll be back to do Legacy of Spider-Man Part 6 when that comes out. But in the interim, any final things to say on the Spider-Verse before we cap off?
We could do a roundup of what are your 3 favorite moments?
Favorite moment is like of all of them is Miles at the end, where before he realizes that it's an alternate version of his mum, he's like, I'm not afraid anymore. You know, I'm not scared. I'm powerful. That was just what a fantastic arc for that character, because he's so confused at the beginning. He's so posturing to Gwen and, you know, pretending to be the alpha when that means nothing. What it is about being a fully formed human being, regardless of you know, your physical status or whatever. That was my number one. Number two is probably the Gwen hugging her dad, and the change in the color. That was just that struck me so much. I really was, I kept coming back to that, like during it. I kept waiting for that animation style to crop up again, and it does a few times, which is really beautiful. And just the whole the vertical chain sequence is just taking, it's what we talked about before, taking advantage of the power set that these characters have in an interesting way is really great. And also the future kind of universe that you're living in to you know, articulate that as well. So great. Such a great chase sequence. So that were my 3. What about you?
My number 3 was it was it's weird, but it was the Spot introduction. That was
that's fair. It's very funny, very very sweet,
and it's done so like he's almost a fan of Spider-Man. Like he's trying, like he's demanding attention, and Miles is just texting. He's like, "This is supposed to be serious. This is our first fight."
And he's got the bread falling out of him.
Yeah.
It's so well animated. Just the timing of it was great.
Like it's almost Deadpool by not being Deadpool too much.
It's not as smug as Deadpool.
Yeah. My number 2 would is before they go on the train and chase, and it's hope, like it's everyone like kind of crowding him, and like their whole spider thing happens where this robotic spider comes out and like makes a makeshift portal, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's trying to break out, and everyone's telling him to calm down and go back. And Hobie comes up and he says, use your palms. And it's done so fucking well, because he does that, and then when all of them decide to go after him, Hobie takes out his watch and throws it and says, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And then we see him
for the establishment anyway.
Yeah. And then we see him in the final scene, which is, it's so perfectly done. The score that plays in that scene is an amalgamation of literally every single Spider theme that you hear in the whole fucking film. And it's called Start a Band, which is this band coming together, going on and saving Miles. And you see Hobie there, and you see Noir there, you see Penny Parker there. Oh, it's just there's so many emotions in there, and it's just fuck yeah,
everyone's
let's go.
There for a different reason.
Yeah.
It's a great ending. I didn't have a problem with it being cliffhanger either. Like that's kind of the point, you know. I think people were like, it doesn't feel complete. It does if you let it.
Yeah.
If you let it be complete, you're like, well, that's that story, and there's going to be another section, and if I get it, I get it. If I don't, then maybe I can make it up in my own head.
Like the 2 fuckers that I was watching it with didn't know that it was supposed to be part 1 of 2, and they were kind of like left hanging. It was like, oh shit, it ended. But I knew there was supposed to be part one, so there was that, like, well, the story does continue. It's supposed to continue.
Yeah.
It's supposed to feel incomplete in ways because it's like the first two halves of an arc that has a really long third act to follow.
Are they doing Beyond in 2 parts?
No, so this was supposed to be 2, yeah. So it was into Across and Beyond, but Beyond was supposed to come out.
Right. Okay. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. And what was your number 1?
My number one was the last one, where all of them are together
on the roof, and they all jump into the portal, and the dolly in on or the push in on Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonderful picture. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. If it's still playing at the cinemas, if it isn't, it's on VOD now, isn't it?
It is.
Video on demand. It's well worth your time, and he's hoping for Beyond.
He's hoping for Beyond, and the fact that we are, like, I told you this before, I told it to other people, but I love saying it because it's true. We're 5 years deep in this multiverse saga that's gonna go on for 15 more. And the fact that the only films that are done the best are the 2 Spiderverse films says a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that gives people who are continuing that thread pause and think, okay, how can we redirect some of this stuff and have it be as impactful, more to the better. So
yeah,
wonderful. All right, folks. Well, that's it. Thanks again for hanging out with us for a little while. We'll see you next time. I think we're talking about, this was our last kind of superhero genre picture for a while. We're gonna take a break and check out some new things, some upcoming episodes that you might enjoy. We don't know when they're going to come out exactly, but some topics that we will be discussing. Zathura. We'll be talking about Zathura at some point. We're also going to do a Lord of the Rings OG trilogy episode. We'll probably do that as a 3-parter, which gives me an excuse to go back and watch the extended editions. I'm very excited about that. And we're also going to do another episode exclusively on anal beads. So come back for that one.
or come forward, however you feel comfortable.
Come however you want to come. Just come. That's the end of the show, everybody. We'll see you next week for something fun, whatever it is. I love you, Addie.
I love you too, man.
You're beautiful. Keep up the good work. And remember,
stay amazing, stay safe, and come joyfully.
Stay safe is a really good bit of advice when you're talking about anal beads too. Know your limits is all I'm saying. Good night.